Do you swear on the Constitution of the United States to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Ain't no thing.
You ain't asking the right questions.
You're asking the wrong question.
Oh. It's about. So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's
of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is.
Berea Scholar.
Waking up the people of the Most High. Got the knowledge to destroy the lies. DNA history, open eyes. Walk into the darkness and turn on the lights.
Warning, the following video are for commentary purposes only. Fair use.
Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what, hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's
of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is.
And to the people who really do believe that God's chosen people rape, murder, destroy, pillage, lie, deceive, blackmail, Jeffrey Epstein, all of our politicians, buy, purchase, threaten, manipulate. Goodness, you may really want to crack open a Bible if you think that those are the signs of God's chosen people. Yeah, no, it shouldn't take you a theology course. Just take a little bit of common sense to tell you that no, that is not what God's chosen people do.
So it's just a really strange thing to say that evangelicals are like, I stand with Israel unequivocally. It's like, guys, they're sinful people.
Well, what comes on the end of that typically is this next statement, which is because they're God's people.
Yes. And you hear things like that, and it just goes to show precisely what you landed on. Unequivocal support because they are God's chosen people.
It's a theological commitment.
That's right.
Exactly right.
And so we need to ask the question. And so let's go to the Bible itself to ask the question, does the Bible give to us this idea that the modern evangelical has today in the West about the state of Israel today, the people in the land of Israel today? Does it give us the idea that we have been raised with in evangelicalism? And I want to say, no. No.
No. No.
Didn't see that coming.
I know you from somewhere, right? You know, a news cancer.
Yeah, he's from the news.
Yeah. Well, what is it? You know about us. Are you Jewish? Are you Jewish?
No.
What are you? Italian?
Christian.
Oh, really? What does the word Christian mean?
It's from, no, someone who follows Christ.
Okay, good. He says someone who follows Christ. You're talking about the Christ in the Bible?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, what color is that Christ?
No idea.
No idea. So you don't read the Bible?
Yeah, I've read the whole thing, actually.
You read the whole Bible?
Yes, I did.
So then you would know the color of Christ.
I don't remember that being mentioned. I may have missed it.
Give me that. Since he missed it, we're going to refresh his memory. Since he read the whole Bible.
Revelation chapter 1, verse 13. And in the midst of the seven candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot.
That's John the Revelator seeing a vision of the Lord coming down from heaven.
All with the garment down to the foot, and girt about the hem with the golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like a fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace. and his voice as the sound of many waters.
Now go back to his hair.
His head and his hairs were white, like wool.
What does it mean by his head and his hairs were white like wool? What do you think? Okay, that's that. Well, he had gray hair.
Right. Yeah.
You have young people. There's this girl I know I grew up with. At the age of like 23, she got a full head of gray hair,
Yeah, I've
white
seen
hair.
that. It's weird.
And that's from
Yeah, 33.
That's from
When he started his ministry, it's 30.
hydrogen peroxide
30 years
coming
old.
through your
So that-
system, like you. That's from peroxide. Okay, that's within your system.
Yep.
So it said he had white hair, but what else did it say?
Like wool.
Like wool. So it's talking about the texture of his hair. Who has woolly hair? You don't know who has woolly hair? Come on. Does this hair look? Hold on, wait on. This is the perfect example. Does this hair look woolly to you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So what would you say when you read that all over again? Read it again.
His head and his hairs were white like wool.
Meaning his head and his hairs, the hairs on his face, because they wore beards, because that was pursuant to the law,
Right.
and the hair on the top of his head was also white and woolly. What people do you know on the planet Earth have woolly hair?
Africans.
Okay, good. So you're saying that the blacks in this country, the so-called Negroes, are you saying that they're Africans?
Descent. No, they're Americans, but
But are you saying that the so-called the Negroes, the African Americans,
right?
All right, are you saying that they descend from Africa?
Yes.
Okay, now listen.
Egypt again.
This is Moses speaking to the children of Israel in the wilderness, and basically when you read the whole chapter, first 15 verses goes into the blessings that Israel will receive.
Right.
All right. From the 16th verse to the end, it talks about the curses that they will receive.
Yes.
So we're reading about the curses. This is one of the main curses that was going to fall to Israel.
There was another one.
Go ahead.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
Now, it's the children of Israel were born as a nation in Egypt. There's no record of the Israelites or the children of Israel, us, going back into Egypt, going into slavery again. So it's got to be talking about another Egypt.
Planned Parenthood was made by Margaret Sanger, a known eugenics with the KKK, to control the Jew population. When I say Jew, I mean the 12 lost tribes of Judah, the blood of Christ, who the people known as the race black really are.
These, of course, expanded on Margaret Sanger's approach to eugenics, right? Eugenics was a movement that was born in the United States under hard doctrines of racism with the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country.
Are you serious right now, bro?
With the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country. Right, to eliminate that. That's why she formed Planned Parenthood, was specifically to kill African-American, black Americans. That's why she did it.
What else don't I know?
Might hurt some feelings, but guess what? The black people living in the Americas are the chosen people of God. Shalom. My name is Ronette Brooks, and before I get started, I want to say all praises to the Most High. I am a Gentile, and it is very important because I know that Israelites that are in the truth and know who they are going to be hearing my voice. This is not about me, but I do want you to know enough about me that you can know a small piece of my heart. I have known who so-called African Americans are in the United States since 2019. The Most High allowed me to know that they were the tribe of Judah. I've learned since then that it might be some Benjamites in there and some Levites, but all I want to say is I am here with a humble heart, and I am infinitely in awe because I know that I'm speaking to the light of the world.
All right, I'm gonna stop her right there. How does her and people like her know that we are the children of Israel, but you don't know that? How does she know we are the light of the world, but you don't know that? How does she know that if you're out here condemning people to hell, you're going to end up right in that same pit with them, but you don't know that? I want y'all to think of it.
You think they mean us?
Well, let's talk about some historical records with things that we know historically and things that we know by scripture. So at the time of the Messiah, we were in the southern kingdom, Israelites. We saw Israelites of the southern kingdom. So that was the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, and some Levites. The northern kingdom fell about 700 years before that. And the Israelites were living in the land until Rome destroyed Jerusalem about 70 years after the Messiah's resurrection. This should just not see that was just not the destruction of a city. It was the mass displacement of all the people, of all God's chosen people. And these people fled to neighboring regions. Some of them were taken into captivity, and a lot of them did settle in West Africa and maintain some identity. What do I mean by that? They maintained oral traditions. They maintained language. They maintained tribal memory, and were in West Africa. So this is not conjecture or my opinion. This is, this is stuff that's backed up by ancient records and linguistic traditions and places in Africa where you can see Hebrew language that had an impact, the cultural practices, but most importantly, prophecy. So I want to talk about the covenant that the Most High made with his chosen people. So first of all, we see the Most High changed Jacob's name to Israel. Jacob has 12 sons. These sons have some situations. They sell one of their, they sell Joseph, and Joseph goes into Egypt, and the people are there. And, a little side note, Joseph was passed as an Israelite. Passed as an Egyptian. I'm sure he was bald-headed and shaved, clean shaven, and he looked like an Egyptian, Egyptian as in people that are from Africa. So Joseph looked so much like an Egyptian that his brothers did not recognize him. And a lot of people say, oh, it had been a long time. No, he looked like an Egyptian because he was of the same skin color as Egyptians. Just wanted to hit that little side note. So anyway, we've come out of Egypt now, and we're in Deuteronomy, and he's told us that he has many nations, but he's got his chosen people. They're the apple of his eye, and they are his inheritance, and they are going to have the covenant. And the covenant is got a long list of blessings for obedience and a long list of curses that will happen for disobedience. And I think that everybody that grew up with a Bible in their hand, in their home, knows about the curses and the blessings. And, this is a borrowed book for me. I'm not here to read the word to a lot of Israelites, but I do want to use a very key phrase that deals with identity. So at somewhere kind of in the middle of the curses, we come up on an identity piece. I'm going to read it to you, then I'm going to go up a little bit. Isaiah 28, verse 46 says, and they shall be upon you for a sign and for a wonder, and upon your seed forever. So what is this they? He's actually talking about the curses. The curses are going to be a sign on the heads of the seed of these people forever. So let me just go up a little bit. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon you and shall pursue you and overtake you till you be destroyed, because you hearkened not unto the voice of the Most High to guard his commandments and his statutes and which he commanded you. And they shall be upon you for a sign and for a wonder, and upon your seed forever. So we're talking about curses. They're going to be cyclical. They're not going to be a one-time historical event. And it's going to be something that happens, and that's how we're going to know who the Most High's chosen are. I want to skip ahead to still in 28, and we're going to look at 68. And the Most High shall bring you into Egypt again with ships. By the way whereof I spoke unto you, you shall see it no more again, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. I have seen reels of black people saying that black people are not the chosen because it says nobody's going to buy them. So that is a mistake in understanding. That's a lack of understanding about the Hebrew language. So we're told very clearly in the King James Version, and I think also, and then in this Sefer, we're told very clearly that you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. We're talking about slaves. And then no man shall buy you. So what does that mean? That means there's not going to be a redeemer. That Hebrew language there, the purchaser, is somebody that would buy you to free you from your oppression. There will be no redeemer. And so when we think about the people that have given their lives to try and redeem you, Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey, Abraham Lincoln, we are in a total falsehood about Abraham Lincoln and who he was, if you go by the education from school. Malcolm X didn't get it done, gave his life. And then, of course, Martin Luther King Jr., we know how that ended. And so what's going on is, even after those lives, and these people have tried to purchase you, they've tried to be the redeemer, we still have, despite progress, despite reform, we still have a condition that is described in the Word as the cyclical curses.
Who are the Jews? So thinking about that particular, let's notice the passage with which we want to begin, and that is Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9. Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9, the passage that was read in your hearing a moment ago. John, writing to the church at Smyrna, as he writes to the 7 churches of Asia, writes particular words that we want to notice, and I want you to look at them on the page. And as you're turning to that, we want to note also this. You're familiar with, and you might recall that the background of Revelation is simply this, that John writes to the 7 churches of Asia. Asia being a Roman province on the eastern side of the country of Turkey. When we were in Turkey about 3 years ago, I found out that we don't say Turkey. That's not how you say it. That's not how you spell it anymore. And officially they changed it. So they inverted the E and the Y. I suppose is how they do it. I don't know. I may be incorrect on that, but they say you have to say Turkey. Be that as it may, the 7 churches of Turkey, Asia, on the western coast of Turkey. So that's those churches to whom John is writing, Smyrna being one of them. And here's what John has to say regarding the church there. He says, I know your tribulation, that is, the persecution that you're facing, and your poverty, but you are really rich, and the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Now, there are a couple of things that we want to notice as we examine those last 2 lines, the last 2 clauses. That is to say, the synagogue of Satan, those who say they are Jews and are not. Those 2 clauses, let's focus upon them for just a moment. There are a couple of points that really meet us head on right here. Number 1, the chief persecutors of the church, as we will find throughout the book of Acts, for example, is or was Judaism, or the Jewish church. Jews were the ones who persecuted Christianity. I know that it is, of course, in politics to speak this way, and I recognize that Jews have been persecuted through the centuries. But in the first century, those who were responsible chiefly for the persecution of the church were Jews. The same thing is regarding the crucifixion of Christ, as our Lord put it in Paul put it in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 14 through 16, that the Jews were responsible for the murder of our Lord. So there's number 1, that the Jews are the persecutors of Christianity. And not only so, but because of that, he calls them the synagogue of Satan. Now, I recognize also that that is not according to the style manual that people want to use today to speak or to write. I was talking to Nita on the way over here and pointed out that as a journalist, or people who are journalists, they have usually style books, and here's how you have to say things, here's how you have to put it. Usually it's politically correct way to say certain things, and those are style books. John did not follow the style book. Many preachers want to follow the style book, but John did not follow the style book. He said, the synagogue, that is the instigator of persecution, is a synagogue of Satan. That's a strong term. Not only so, but he says that those who are claiming to be Jews, but they are not. They're not really Jews. That is to say, they may be connected by blood in the first century to Abraham, and they might be able to trace back their lineage through the centuries, but he says they are not true Jews. And we'll come back to all of this in just a moment. So we're thinking about who are the Jews. I've had in my possession for the last 40 years, I suppose it is, this manuscript called Facts Are Facts by Dr. Benjamin Friedman. Benjamin Friedman was a Jewish scholar and a Jewish businessman, and in this manuscript, which is typed, this is an 85-page manuscript, it's just on typed notes. And in this manuscript, he's writing to Dr. Goldstein, and it's dated 1954. And here is Dr. Friedman's thesis. And he began by saying this: Jesus was not a Jew. When I first read that, I thought, what are you talking about? Jesus was not a Jew. I don't understand that. What do you mean Jesus was not a Jew? But as I began to read, I noted that he is using the word Jew in a different sense. And here's the idea, here's the thesis. And that is that the Jews of today do not trace their heritage back to the Jews of the Bible at all. But instead they trace their heritage back to the kingdom of Khazaria to the 7th and 8th century AD, which was located in the steppes of Russia. That is, they're Ashkenazi Jews or Sephardic Jews, that is from Spain, but they all trace their origin back to the kingdom of the Khazars, and none of them, practically none, if there are any at all, trace their lineage back to the time of the Bible and biblical Judaism. So when we use the word Jew today, he points out, it is completely different than what was used in the Bible. Now that was a basic thesis. And as I read through it, I noted that he quoted one historian after another historian after another. And as I began to dig through the histories that I could find, I found that he was exactly accurate. That is, that people who call themselves Jews today are not traceable to the seed of Abraham at all, but only are traceable to the kingdom of the Khazars. And what happened was that there was a king by the name of Bulan, and he was called the Kagan or Kagan, K-A-G-A-N, that would be the king. King Bulan was concerned about the immorality of the kingdom of Khazars over which he ruled. Therefore, he hired Pharisees, some of that which was left in the old country of Babylonia, Persia, and he hired them to come over and teach them Judaism in order that he might quell some of the immorality in the country, that they might learn to live better. And consequently, we have a national conversion into Judaism of the people of the Khazar kingdom. But they are not traceable at all to Abraham or the Jews of the Bible. Now, that's how he pointed it out. And he quotes one historian, as I said, after another to show that this is exactly what had happened. I thought this is an earth-shattering, an earth-shaking conclusion. But then as I began to cast about, I noted other historians and most of them all Jewish people saying the same exact thing. For example, this one's not a Jew, but this man is a British historian by the name of Chamberlain. At the end of the 19th century, he wrote a book, The Foundations of the 19th Century. He pointed out that Jews today are illegitimate. That is to say that they're not traceable, once again, to the Jews of the Bible. There is no heritage by blood at all. Not only so, but then there came this book in 1976, and it's written by Arthur Kiesler, who was a Zionist Jew. And here it is. Arthur Kiesler, in his book called The 13th Tribe, a Zionist Jew, writing, and he agrees perfectly with Benjamin Friedman by pointing out that all Jews today only go back to the kingdom of the Khazars, K-H-A-Z-A-R, kingdom of the Khazars, and have nothing to do with a Bible Jew. They all are converts, they're all proselytes from the Middle Ages. And he pointed that out. Now, Arthur Kiesler, as a matter of fact, was wanting in 1976 to give answer to the Hitlers of the world after we'd seen the great atrocities against the Jews in Germany. And so he wanted to give an answer to Hitler and all of those anti-Jewish people. But what happened was that his book caused a tremendous backlash among his fellow Jews because he let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. Here are some of the statements that he makes. Number one, he said the bulk of modern Jewry is not of Palestinian, but of Caucasian origin. Their ancestors came not from the Jordan River, but from the Volga. That would be the river valley in Russia. Not from Canaan, but from the Caucasus Mountains. The main bulk originated from the Khazar country. Now, what all of this means is the following, and I put it on the bottom of the screen, and that is that Jews today, that is those we know of as Jews, are not traceable to the Jews of the Bible and have no ancestral claim to the land of Israel at all. Now, you can see how this would be a political earthquake. And Arthur Koestler had, as I said, tremendous backlash, not only from many people in the secular world, but from many of his own fellow Jews. But he documented it carefully with all these histories, just as Benjamin Friedman had done. But now we come to this other one, and this man is named Shlomo Sand. We're coming down to 2007. And here's his book. It is a fascinating read. He's a great scholar from the University of Tel Aviv, no less. Shlomo Sand. And his book is called The Invention of the Jewish People. Shlomo Sand says precisely the same thing. As a matter of fact, he tells about going to all these different libraries and trying to find some of these histories that the Jews depended upon to talk about the exile after 70 AD. He said, you cannot find anything on it because they were not exiled. They simply dissipated after the destruction of Jerusalem into all the peoples of the world, and they did not stay as a unit of a people. And that is something, he said, that is a conclusion that you cannot help but reach when you read history. So let's notice some of the statements he makes in The Invention of the Jewish People.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
Of the Jewish people after the year 70. None whatsoever. The people were destroyed, the city was destroyed, the country was destroyed, and the people were dispersed. Number two, it is a myth that the nation stayed intact as a nation. Their DNA was dispersed and they assimilated into the different peoples of the world. Number three, he points out also the kingdom of Khazaria were proselytes to Judaism. They have no Jewish blood, period. Number four, he says there's no justification for the annexing of Arab Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Israel at all, as was done by the British mandate when they had mandatory Palestine or when the United Nations set up in 1948. Now, I want to hasten to add this note. This is a caveat, and I get this from Shlomo Sand. I think he's probably correct on this. He said that does not mean that we need to go displace people today in Israel and cause more upheaval than has been caused in the past. But he says it was not just what has been done by the United Nations and by the British mandate, followed by the United States as well. That was all not just. And he says what's going on there, he says they're illegitimate. He says it's just like an illegitimate child. The child has a right to live and you care for it, but we recognize that the heritage of that child, what it is. And so also, we're simply recognizing. Now, what is remarkable in the invention of the Jewish people is that Shlomo Sand himself was a professor at the University of Tel Aviv. You can imagine, once again, the earthquake, literary speaking, that occurred when he put out his book. And he had many, many people that were Jews who were upset because, once again, he let the cat out of the bag. But there's much more, and we only have time to notice a couple of brief points. Now we come to DNA studies. This is not widely known because it has been kept hidden, I suppose, but this is Dr. Ariella Oppenheim, a Jewish researcher, once again at the University of Tel Aviv in 2001. That would predate Shlomo Sand's book by 6 years. She pointed out in DNA studies that DNA proves that the Jews today are not traceable to the Jews of the Bible. but they are traceable only to the kingdom of the Khazars. They are not traceable at all to the Jews of the Bible. There is a difference with a wide distinction. Not only that, but she was added to her was this one by Dr. Aaron El-Haik. And here's the magazine. You can find this online, Genome Biology and Evolution, GBE magazine. The article's still there. And Dr. Aaron El-Haik in 2012 stated very plainly and very simply, doing all these DNA studies, he said there is no such thing as a Jewish DNA. That is to say that it is not traceable any further back than the kingdom of the Khazars. All of the Jews today, therefore, are not bloodline Jews to the family of Abraham or any Jews in the time of our Lord. They're all proselytes. Now, all of this has, of course, major implications, and let's think about all of that for just a moment. What does this mean? What does it say? There are several things that we need to notice. Number one, politically. Politically, this sermon is going to be called what? Anti-Semite. But I'm going to say this. There was a Jewish writer, he was an atheist, he was a Jew, by the name of Christopher Hitchens. Have you heard of Christopher Hitchens? Famous writer like Richard Dawkins. His books can be found if you go to the bookstore and want something on atheism. Christopher Hitchens has a lot of books on it. He was an atheist, a Jew. And he put out his material, made this quip, I should say, just a year before Dr. El-Haik came out with his studies on DNA. Too bad, I wonder what he would have said had he read Dr. El-Haik's study. But here's what he said from Dr. Oppenheim's study. He said, apparently, we're not Semites at all. He said, if you're going to be anti-Semite, you have to be anti-Semite because we're all semi-Semites. And that's how he put it, just kind of tongue-in-cheek. There's really no such thing as anti-Semitism from his viewpoint.
This is crazy. There's evidence all over the place.
I will never forget the first time I went to Israel and I stepped off the plane and the first thing that anyone said to me was, welcome home. I wasn't told welcome home because my ancestors were from Israel. I was told welcome home because I'm Jewish. Every single person who's Jewish that steps off the plane, especially for their first time in Israel, is told welcome home. Let's just sit with that for a second. This right here, this is my actual ancestry. I am 88% Ashkenazi Jewish, and none of my ancestors are from the Middle East. Zionist ideals and beliefs are far more based in colonization, imperialism, and just white supremacy culture than it is in truth and history and ancestry. The land that is called Israel now is not my home. It's not my ancestors' home.
I got loyalty, got royalty inside my DNA. Cocaine quarter piece, got war and peace inside my DNA. I got power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA.
But the second question is every bit as pressing, which is who are the people? Who are the modern, yes, who are the descendants? So we know, and I believe, and I agree with you as a Christian, that God promised this land from modern day Iraq to modern day Egypt to this people, the Jews, to Abram's, actually not to Abram's descendants, as it says in Genesis 15. Who are his descendants now and how do we know who they are?
Prove it to me. Show me some proof.
Judaism is not an ethnicity. Let me tell you what I mean and why it's important right now. The difference between religion and ethnicity is very simple and easy to test. If you can convert to it, it's not an ethnicity. I can convert to Judaism or to Islam or to Buddhism or whatever. Those are religions. Armenian is an ethnicity. I can't convert to be Armenian. I can never become Armenian if my ancestors are not Armenian.
Being Jewish is not an ethnicity. Being Jewish is not a culture. Being Jewish is not even a blood family. You can convert to Judaism. You can't convert to a blood family. You cannot convert to a race. Judaism is a religion. That's all it is. In particular, specifically, Jews that the Jewish people are a nation, like France and like Spain, will get a land, that's Israel, that's our stadium. We'll get baseball bats and balls. We'll create a language. They sat down to create a language because nations need languages. And we will try to convince the Jewish people, forget about this religion stuff. It's nationality. Support Israel. Fight in the army. Then you're a good Jew. That way, we will be real men. We will be purified of our Jewiness.
Ashkenazi is an ethnicity. It is a distinctly Jewish ethnicity from Euro-Russian background, originally from the Caucasus region. Now, where is the confusion from? The problem, as it often does, goes back to the white people. And the white people of Judaism have colonized the concept of Jewishness so that when you say Jewish in an English Western concept, you most likely think of this. You most likely do not think of this or this or this. That is a deliberate confusion that goes back 130 years to the Zionist European project that is essentially a white nationalist project. Because when the Zionists were colonizing Palestine, when they would say Jewish, they meant white European Ashkenazi Jewish. That's what they meant. The project to conflate white Euro-Russian Jewishness with all of Jewishness is a distinctly Zionist project. It is racist because Zionism is racist. To this day, almost all of the people in power in Israel are Ashkenazi people. It is a white nationalist project, and that is why it is so akin to other white nationalist projects like the US evangelical white nationalist movement. That's why they're best friends with racist, anti-Semitic Reverend Hagee, Lindsey Graham, all these. It is key to the anti-Zionist project to not only separate Judaism from Israel, but also to separate the concept of religion and ethnicity within Judaism, within Jewishness, because the colonization of Jewishness by the white Jewish people is as violent as the colonization of Christianity by the white Christian people.
A lot of people are waking up now.
What do you think about this topic? Remember to be a Berean scholar, as it is written in the book of Acts 17 verses 11 to 12. Now the Bereans were more noble-minded than the Thessalonians, for they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scriptures every day to see if these teachings were true. It's time to deepen your understanding and see your reflection within the sacred pages. Please click subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay up to date with the Berean Scholar channel.